Okay, in the last video we talked about the beginning. What created matter, why was matter created, and I'm seeing that I'm going to have to structure this from two perspectives, and that is believers and non-believers, because that pretty much makes up the population. And the answers to these questions have to be worded differently so as to not offend or oppose or make defenses go up in the minds of. But there needs to be some kind of structure or substance to what we believe instead of what we were just told. It doesn't make any sense. So we said that it's my personal view that if one thing or another had to exist forever, that I'd rather it be an intelligent being than matter. If matter was created or created itself from nothing, what was the point? Okay, and that brings us to the next main question I have, and that is human beings. Okay, whether you're a believer and say that an intelligent being created matter, or that matter created itself if you're a non-believer, or that matter has always existed, how did human beings come about? Now, first I want to state my stance that evolution does not account for the origin of the species. In other words, I don't believe that I'm as a result of an ape mutating. But the question has to be answered, how do we get from atoms that explode at the Big Bang to the incredibly complex systems that exist within the human body? Now, it's my stance that no matter how many times or how many billions of years you spend running a tornado through a scrap metal yard, you're never going to get a Boeing 747. It's just never going to happen. I don't care how long you give it. Okay? So to me personally, I have to believe that there's an intelligent design behind everything that exists. And maybe that's just, limitation in my ability to computate data. I mean, is it technically possible that these atoms just happen to, as a result of the way that they exploded, pile on top of each other, and all these other things just happened that resulted in human beings? Well, either way you look at it, the answer to that has to be yes, because I believe in a higher being. I believe in God, not the God that's taught behind the pulpit, though. But God doesn't have literal fingers. He uses forces to do the things that he wills. So nature is really a textbook on the mind of this higher being, to me. But keeping it simple, why do human beings exist? What's the point? Well, the Bible says in Genesis chapter 1 that God said, "Let us make man in our image." Now, man can be male or female, and the plural is two. If you read the Hebrew and you understand Hebrew, the plural form there, "let us," means two. In Hebrew, you have a plural that means two, and then you have a plural that means many, more than two. This is the plural for two, which means that whatever this higher power is, there was something or someone beside him. Okay? Now, so for believers, the answer is that human beings were created by natural forces, ordered by an intelligent being for a purpose. If you're a non-believer, then we just happened as a result of the dynamic forces that existed at the Big Bang. And so we now exist, and we're sentient, we're self-aware, we're able to think and computate. And this brings in the idea of free will. Now, people like to believe in free will because it gives you control over your life and your destiny. To me, free will is impossible, whether you're a believer or non-believer. If you're a believer, the Bible clearly teaches there's no such thing as free will. Well, it says I have to choose, and that's my own free choice. If you think that you make free choices, and we need some definitions here, free means uninfluenced by anything. Then people say, well, I mean limitedly free. Well, that kind of goes against using the word free, doesn't it? The simple fact is that every thought, everything you see, think, feel, believe, etc. is nothing but different chemical combinations and explosions in your mind. That's all it is. Everything that you see, think, feel, believe, all your perspectives and everything else are a result of DNA, circumstance, etc. You do indeed make choices, but those choices are determined by preconceived notions, belief systems, like I said before, DNA, thought processes, limitations of the human body, etc. These things are not free. Free will, if free will existed, none of us would work. Okay? If free will exists, that means I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, uninhibited, completely. That's obviously not the case. Okay, so I have free choice. In other words, there's a limited choice, list of choices that I can have, that I can do under my own power, and I freely choose among them. Well, no, because my favorites and my likes and dislikes are all pre-programmed. So I'm going to make a choice, but that choice is caused. There is nothing in this universe that is uncaused. So whether I'm a believer or non-believer, I have to know that all my choices are going to be caused by something. Even if I jump up and act all crazy, I'm caused to do that because something is trying to limit my control by telling me that I'm caused. You can't escape it. The universe either was created or came by itself. And then human beings were either as a result of the forces that push that creation into existence, or there's an intelligent being behind all of it. Either way, everything that's happening is supposed to happen, is going to happen, and there's really nothing we can do about it. A computer makes millions of choices a second, but it makes those choices based on pre-programming. And I submit that we're all the same. It's the same thing. Then people ask, well, if there is no free will, then I'm just a robot. Well, the difference between you and a robot is, well, actually nowadays, some robots can learn, but you learn. And that's the point. For believers in Genesis, when God says, let us make man in our image, knowing good and evil, the only way that you can know evil is to experience it. The only way you can experience evil is for it to exist. And the only way it can exist is if something does something evil. So, if there were no evil beings, we couldn't be made in God's image because we wouldn't know evil. Now, God's not the type, from what I've learned, that's going to make something that's going to do an act on his behalf to teach everyone and then not reward that thing. So even the ones that are doing evil in the end are going to be converted, changed, saved, however you want to put it, to be part of the ultimate creation for all of eternity. That's what the Bible says. For non-believers, and this is where it gets kind of strange, is matter came from nowhere by itself and formed itself into humans that we have, our bodies, etc. And because we're sentient, we seek meaning, which adds the meaning to the things. In and of itself, there is no meaning then. It's just what we add to it with our own thoughts. So that brings the question of, well, what's to happen after this life? That'll be the next video. Thanks.